The Kansas City Chiefs have re-signed 2 more players in their quest to get the roster back up to NFL roster size numbers. This is before free agency. Free agency officially begins. These 2 players are guys that you will know their names, one of whom I'm honestly surprised did not have a bigger role last season, one of whom I would be very surprised if he had a role this coming season. Just being very, very honest with you. I think I owe you guys that for being here, even if I do try to keep it as positive as possible. In an article titled Chiefs Make 2 More Minor Signings, Kansas City Continues to Tweak the Offseason Roster from Arrowhead Pride by Jared Sapp, we get the following. Two more players who ended the season on Kansas City's practice squad are reportedly staying per the NFL's official transaction reports from Wednesday and Thursday. Tight end Anthony Firkser. Anthony Firkser? He hardly knows her. Anthony Firkser re-upped with the Chiefs on Wednesday while far from the tight end news the fan base is awaiting, an allusion to Travis Kelce. Firkser was elevated for 3 games after joining the Chiefs in November after being released by the New York Jets. Over his 7-year NFL career, the Harvard product has 112 career receptions for 1,207 yards and 5 touchdowns. Firkser's minimum salary at his experience will be $1.255 million. However, he will qualify for the veteran salary benefit to only have a salary cap charge of $1.03 million, a relatively new deal in the NFL where if you are a veteran, they can sign you for a minimum against the cap, even though you get paid a little bit more. The minimum salary for players with 2 credited seasons. On Thursday, running back Keontae Ingram agreed to stay with the Chiefs. The former Arizona Cardinals 6th-round selection joined Kansas City's practice squad late in the 2023 season. Ingram was briefly on the Chiefs' 53-man roster this season after the injury to starter Isaiah Pacheco. After only 1 appearance, however, he was waived and then re-signed to the practice squad. The former USC Trojan has 134 career rushing yards and a touchdown, all with Arizona. With 2 accrued seasons, his listed salary would be $1.03 million. Now, I think Anthony Firkser has a much better chance of being at least a role player for the Kansas City Chiefs this coming season. Listed at 6'1" and 5/8 inches, 246 pounds, with 31 1/4 inch arms. Ran a 4.82 40-yard dash with a 1.69 10-yard split, a 31.5-inch vertical, a 9'2" broad jump, and 21 reps on the bench press. None of these, absolutely none of these are eye-popping numbers. None of these are impressive numbers. None of these are even good numbers. But Anthony Firkser is a football player. That sticks out from watching him on the field. These are his career stats here. He had a career year in 2020, 53 targets, 39 receptions, 387 yards with a touchdown. His high average, however, came in 2019, 24 targets, 14 receptions, 204 yards, another touchdown added in, but a 14.6 yard per reception average. If you look at all of those numbers, what you're looking at is a backup tight end. What you're looking at is a guy who brings experience to the table, but he has not really done much of anything since the 2022 season. He spent he spent the first 4 years of his career with Tennessee. Then he signed a 1-year deal in Atlanta. Then he spent a year in 2023 with Detroit. You can see him as a Detroit guy. And then he came to Kansas City after spending a few games with the Jets in 2024. I covered this signing on the channel and was relatively impressed at what it was that I had seen on tape from Firkser, despite the fact that he was not someone with whom I was familiar. Firkser is a powerful type of guy. He makes catches, but he is not a wide receiver type tight end. when you look at Anthony Firkser catch the ball, when you look at Anthony Firkser take the reception and turn upfield, he's a tight end. He does not move the way that Travis Kelce moved. He does not even move the way that Noah Gray moves, but he does. You look at him and you don't think that he should not. That's a double negative. When you look at him, you think, yeah, he should probably be on the field. That's not a ringing endorsement, but he does look like a guy who fits. One of the things that, and I think part of it is because we're so close to the team, right? Part of it is that we're so close to the team, so the guys that we think are terrible, we get confirmation bias on them. But when we watch other teams, there are delineations. There's guys who are stars. There's guys who are starters. There's guys who look like backups. But when we look at the Chiefs on the field, we see the stars, and then everyone else looks like garbage most of the time. That's how it feels watching the game, right? Anthony Firkser is one of these guys who, when he's on the field, looks like a backup. Look, he belongs on the field. You don't want him as a starter. If he's a starter, you're in trouble. But he belongs on the field and he can make plays from time to time. Firkser, I think, is a guy, and this is going to get me in trouble because I know this is a very popular player, but is a guy who I think would have the versatility to replace Carson Steele, 6 foot tall, 228 pounds with a 4.77 40, as a fullback for the Chiefs as the team attempts to consolidate roles in order to conserve cash. Carson Steele didn't play a whole lot down the stretch. I'm not saying they should cut Carson Steele. I'm saying that if I were a betting man, 6 foot 228 with a 4.77 40 versus 6'2", 246 with a 4.82 40, this is a guy who has versatility around the field. Carson Steele is a fullback, sometimes a halfback. Did not make a ringing endorsement for himself as a halfback. So you're looking at a mostly fullback, maybe a halfback. With Anthony Firkser, you have a guy who is a tight end. I think has the physical versatility to play fullback. Can line up against the line. Can line up or tight to the line. Can line up in the slot. He's a guy who I think if you were to line him up as a solo back, it's obvious at that point he's not catching the ball. But he is the type of guy who can pick up the blitz from that station. So I think that you do yourself some type of service by having him on the field as a single back. So I think Anthony Firkser has a good chance of playing a much bigger role for the Chiefs this season than he did last year. He's a decent route runner, but he plays bigger than his listed height. He makes a bigger target of himself, which quite honestly is a little bit confusing because not only is he sub 6'2", he has sub 31.5-inch arms. He is a 4.8 40 type of guy. I don't know how he does it. I really don't. But he does look the part of a tight end on the field. He's also very good at finding spots and sitting down. And that skill at finding spots to set down is one that's really good for a tight end to have because those turn around and get open routes, those are first down routes. And I don't know if I have that stat in here. Yeah, so 19 receptions in 2018, 11 of them for first downs. 14 for 9, 53-26. 39 receptions, 26 first downs. 34 receptions, 15 first downs. 9 receptions, 5 first downs. Getting first downs is not glamorous, but it's one of the things that keeps the offense on the field. That is something that the Chiefs have had problems with at times over the past few seasons, and certainly something that they had problems with in this alleged Super Bowl. The next player, Keontae Ingram, listed at 5'11" and 3/4, 221 pounds. 4.5 340-yard dash with a 1.5 10-yard split, 34.5-inch broad jump, 34.5-inch vertical jump, a little bit different than a broad jump, 10-foot 2-inch broad jump, and 23 reps on the bench press. His NFL career looks like this: 27 attempts in 2022 for 60 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 first downs, a 13-yard long. 35 attempts in 2023, 74 yards, 4 first downs, no touchdowns, and a 14-yard long. I know this is not popular to talk about players this way. I would be very surprised if Keontae Ingram ends up being on the roster kind of at all in this coming season. We're talking a lot about the salary cap already this offseason. It is likely that the Chiefs have to find some way to cut corners this year. They sold out in order to get to the Super Bowl, and it is going to bite them a little bit in 2025. Ingram is not entirely unlike Isaiah Pacheco. He has good burst. He has good heft. He has good strength and borderline terrible field vision. I don't know, how should I say? He falls forward, okay? He runs hard. I don't know that you necessarily have a spot for a player like that on the roster at $1 million per year. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are likely to have several UDFA running backs in camp this season. It's kind of always the case that you can find a running back in the ranks of UDFA in order to come on to the roster and make the team. The Chiefs had a couple last year, and Carson Steele, I think his name was Bailey out of TCU. I can't remember quite off the top of my head. I should have prepared for this, but every year they've had a couple guys that have come in and at least made the practice squad. You had, oh man, I'm going to forget all of their names now, but you've had a couple guys who have looked very, very impressive end up on the practice squad the past couple of seasons and never make it to the active roster. And that kind of shows you how valuable running backs find themselves in the NFL. If you have a true difference maker, cool. But unless it's Saquon Barkley, it doesn't really seem to do too terribly much for your offense. Derrick Henry went home in the postseason. Name the best running back in the playoff bracket, not named Saquon Barkley. Name the best running back in the playoff bracket the past few seasons, not named Saquon Barkley, that ended up going to the Super Bowl, right? So I think that this is sort of an expendable position. And look, the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl and ran the ball 1.5 times. So the sort of price wars at running back are to the downside in the NFL. And do you want to... So he's not better than Isaiah Pacheco. He's not better than maybe Carson Steele. I mean, you have to believe he's not better than Carson Steele because the Chiefs carried Carson Steele on their roster all last year. So are you looking at a third running back that you're paying $1 million? I kind of don't think so. But anyway, guys, those are the two players that the Kansas City Chiefs signed or re-signed, I guess I should say. If you like this sort of thing, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. We're approaching 2 years consecutive of daily uploads, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.